What's up? This is Derek.
Jamie Madrock.
Man, this your man's Obi Trice.
This is Ad-Lib.
Yo, what up? This is Spesh One.
This is Spesh K.
Hot Rock's motherfucking Skot MC.
Breaking
Records.
Breaking Records Radio out here.
This is Breaking Records Radio.
Check them out, man.
Check it out. It's your man Maloney, Breaking Records Radio, and the place to be. And we have a very, very special guest on the phone right now, a hometown legend on the phone right now. We got Mr. Marco Polo with us.
Hey, that's quite the intro. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, I've been a huge fan ever since Port Authority.
Thank you.
I love that album. And Nostalgia.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, man, it's been time. Nostalgia, though, still is top. It's hard to off the top, but top 20 to top 30 best hip hop songs of all time, in my opinion.
Damn, I appreciate that. It's funny you say that. I mean, I'm blessed that song exists. It definitely helped get my name on the map. But really, it kind of ties into, that was the whole catalyst for me and Master Ace to do a full album. So, yeah, man.
Yeah,
God bless nostalgia.
I was actually curious about that, too, if that was kind of what catapulted the whole thing to go forward.
Yeah, it kind of did. Like, we did that song, and we did the video, and Ace was like, yeah, video's cool, but then, the response to it was so overwhelming, and, the video's almost at 8 million views now. It was definitely a fan favorite. So over the years, I started DJing for him on the road, and me being the youngster, I got a lot of respect for the OGs, so I wouldn't be like, yo, Ace, we should do a whole album. So over time, it kind of like naturally happened where he brought it up, and I was like, of course, let's do it. And we just connected schedule-wise. Finally, I started making beats specifically for him, and we finally knocked it out.
Yeah, because you make a lot of real hardcore like street type beats as well too. So you almost do have to get in a certain pocket and zone to produce like specifically for Ace, eh?
You hit the nail right on the head with that. Absolutely. After Port Authority, I kind of went real street, New York gritty, double barrel execution, seize the day with Hannibal Stacks, and I kind of had to, like I said, go into a different zone because Ace is a very lyrical, conceptual MC, and while he still likes hardcore beats, he's very much a storyteller and wants to make you think, and I had to put a lot of thought into making beats with a lot of emotion that would bring out the songs that ended up on the album. So yeah, it was a challenge, but I love it. And also for me as a producer, it's important to show that I'm not a one-trick pony. Like, yeah, I can make some head nod, stab you in the face type of beat, but I could also, do other things as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even like just the balance like you show on Port Authority really shows that too, because you got joints like Speak Softly on there, you know what I mean? Which like, the way JoJo wrecked it, it's still hardcore, but like the beat itself, you know what I mean? It's kind of more, the sample, a little more soulful and stuff, and then obviously nostalgia, stuff like that. But then you got stuff like The Radar with Large Pro, which is just like, that's literally stab you in the face type beat right there.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's my job as a producer. I was inspired by P-Rock, and Marley Marl. Like, they were the first producers in my discovery of hip-hop that did, like, a producer-type album where, they didn't necessarily... Well, Pete rhymes, but Marley never rapped. He was just about getting a bunch of his favorite MCs on a project and just going in. So, Port Authority was a chance for me to work with all types of people and give them beats I thought would make sense for them. So, yep.
Yeah, that's dope, man. And that's a classic, hands down, in my opinion. Like, the joints you got on there are just bananas. And
appreciate it, man.
And so I'm curious, too, because nostalgia, like I said, that's always been my favorite joint. That's, like, my favorite. That's in my top probably 2 or 3 favorite Masta Ace joints. It might even be my favorite. But that song is it's absolutely incredible, man. It just embodies the soul, the vibe of hip-hop, and it came out at a time when it was so important because there was a lot of shifts happening in the culture, and it really embodied it, and it came from a point of, like, like even just the cuts. Who did the cuts on that? Was that Shiloh?
No, that was actually DJ Lynx, another Toronto hometown hero.
Okay.
He did the scratches on Nostalgia. Shouts to Lynx of Mixtape Massacre fame, and he's done a lot of scratches for me over the years. He's been down with me since day one, and he has some scratches on the Brooklyn Story as well, just like Shiloh does, of course.
Okay. Dope. Yeah, man, like, and even the cuts he used just with the stuff that Ace was saying, you know, the end with that sermon, like, this might be my last, and just, like, the way the drum, like, that song right there, it just...
There's a story behind that, sorry to cut you off, is that when Ace did that record, just like most rappers, they always go through their moments where, I think this is my last record, and he kind of wrote that like it might be his last song, so we kind of went with that vibe. Lynx found all the Juice Crew scratches, and, you know, we kind of just, like, that's our job, you know, like, and there's such a big difference between a beat maker and a producer. It's like, it's one thing to make a really hot beat, but it's another thing to turn that into a fully realized song. And Ace laid the verses, and then he gave it back to me, and he's like, yo, I don't have a chorus idea. Like, let's, you know the vibe, take it from here. And then, you know, Lynx really, really sat down and dug in the crates to find those lines to, you know, to make it complete and give you that finished, you know, song type vibe. So.
Oh, man, the cuts he picked were perfect, too, from that Frankie Cutlass joint. Like, just the way he used them, too, like...
Absolutely.
And it's crazy. I didn't even know the Frankie Cutlass joint until, like, a couple years later. You know what I mean? Because I'm a bit younger. I'm 28. So, like, you know, hip-hop's always been a digging and a research thing for me. I've never really been so up on the current because I'm so busy digging in the past. And yeah, when I first heard that Frankie Cutlass joint, I can't even express how hard I geeked because I heard all the cuts from Nostalgia in it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's a dope. Shouts to Frankie Cutlass. That's a dope ass song. And yeah, man, it's all good. That's how I was too, though, because, you know, I was born in '79, so when a lot of the classic early records were coming out in the '80s, I was still a kid. So when I finally discovered hip hop, the first artists I discovered, like Wu-Tang, Cypress Hill, De La Soul, you know, you fall in love with it, and then you're like, okay, now I want to know everything, and you go back.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's like going to the library and reading all the books you missed. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, that was the same thing.
Yeah, man, that's dope. And when you made Nostalgia, too, did you have Ace in mind once you made that beat, or was it kind of like a shopping thing, like where you're like, well, I could see this guy on it, and it just kind of lined up that way?
Yeah, no, honestly, for that one, I can't say I made it for Ace. There was just a beat that I made that I thought was dope, and it was on a CD, one of the first CDs, if not the first beat CD I gave to Ace.
Oh, really?
And I guess it just spoke to him. Yeah, and it was a real skeleton track, too. Like, there's a bunch of sounds that come in on the hook, and I actually played all of that after he laid his bars. It was a real skeleton, just like the parts where he's rapping his verses was really the beat.
Yeah.
There was no hook sound, so...
None of that extra stuff.
You know, that was really, you know, I'm really proud of that song because it kind of started like a rough sketch, and then I got it back, and then I really went in and finished it, and then Lynx, you know, had the cuts, and it was like it all came together.
Oh, man, that's crazy. So that would have been like on like that CD, because you gave Ace the first beat CD when you were interning still, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that the same place you're interning? Like, there's the Dad's Talk skit on the new album, and it's kind of like a reinterpretation of you talking to your dad about moving to New York, right?
Yeah, man. That, like, a lot of those skits are pretty factual in the sense of what happened. Like, I moved to New York in 2001, literally 3 months after 9/11 happened. So my dad was definitely kind of like, what is going on? Like, he didn't stop me, obviously, but, you know, I come from an Italian family, Italian immigrants, you know, born in Italy. They moved to Canada, and to tell my pops I'm going to New York to become a hip-hop producer, it's kind of hard to process sometimes culturally when you're like, you know, what they don't even know what that is. Like,
yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
I'd rather you get a job doing something that's steady and, you know,
well, you work for the city or something.
Construction worker or something, you know?
Yeah.
So he was kind of bugging. My mom was definitely the more open-minded one in terms of, okay, if that's what you want to do. But, yeah, man, he was definitely hesitant for me to take this journey so young and leave the nest, you know?
Yeah.
So, but, you know, now he's proud as hell, and obviously saw, you know, what I was talking about, what I wanted to achieve, and you know, he loves it.
That's incredible, man. And that's actually, since you brought your mom up, that's one thing I wanted to ask about as well, too, because when you and Master Ace did the Elma combo back like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, But I was rocking front row, you know what I mean? Especially when Nostalgia came on.
So you were right beside my mom.
I was just gonna say that. I met your mom that night, and she was so proud of you. She's like, "That's my son. That's my son." And I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Dude, I'm so blessed. I have the best parents. Yeah, my mom is so into it, and she reps extra hard, and she's always at shows. You know, if I do shows here, she's always there, and she just loves it. She loves it. She loves music, so you know. She gets a lot of love too, just from going to events. She's always wearing the Marco Polo T-shirts, and I think, yeah, it's great, man.
Yeah, man. No, she was awesome. She reminded me a lot of my own mother too, because like my mom don't come out to all shows, but the ones she comes out to, she's up there, you know, dancing and representing, and just no. But I thought that was fucking awesome. She was so proud of you that night, and that's why I didn't actually want to bring that up, but you actually gave me the segue to do it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna, but that's super cool, man. That's super cool.
Absolutely.
And so, like, but yeah, so that's nuts. So when you gave the first beat CD to Ace, like what Do It Man would have been on, like Nostalgia would have been on like one of those CDs?
I think honestly that both those beats were on the very first beat CD. Me and Ace are like, we can't confirm 100%, but I feel like the first CD I gave him had both those beats on it. And from what I remember, the story goes like this: I gave him the CD at the cutting room. He came in to do a session. He was working actually on his track "Beautiful," which is on A Long Hot Summer. Gave him the beat CD. He bounced. I said, "What up?" And then I got a call from him, like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks later. And my memory tells me that this is what he said. He said, "Yo, I want to use this beat. I don't got no more bread. I got no more budget. Can we work something out?" And I was like, yo, like, I was so hyped. I was like, I don't even care. I'm like, take the beat, and maybe, you know, you do a track for me, and we do a trade.
Yeah.
So in my mind, he did Do It Man, and then he did Nostalgia and gave that to me. And that's how it went down. And I feel like those two beats were on the very first beat CD. So
wow.
Yeah. That's
nuts, man. Because yeah, Nostalgia didn't come out till like 5 years after that, right? So.
Well, yeah. The Port Authority dropped 2007, and Long Hot Summer dropped,
okay, so
I
like
think 2005.
So like 3
6.
years. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I guess I for some reason I was thinking there was a bigger gap.
Don't quote me on Long Hot Summer release date, but I feel like it definitely came out before Port Authority.
Yeah. Like a Long Hot Summer, I'm pretty sure was like 04, and then Port Authority. For some reason, I was thinking Port Authority was 09, but yeah. So it wasn't as big a gap, but that's nuts that all formulated from that one CD. You know what I mean? Imagine you didn't have the CD on you that day.
Yeah, no, it's everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hip hop history was made from you handing him that CD. That's absolutely insane, man. That's so cool.
Oh.
But so you guys got the new Brooklyn Story album out. I love the album. Fucking everything on it is fucking dope. And one thing I heard I think you guys were on Sway talking about it, but you said that you kind of took a different approach with this one, where you weren't sampling actual records, but you actually got sample packages of, you know, original instrumentation being played and did a lot of the sampling from that.
Yes, it wasn't a conscious decision. It's just that, you know, over time, I made the choice to become a hip-hop producer, and I pay my rent with this. So as much as I want to uphold the values of the you know, culturally buying records and sampling them and trying to chop stuff up, which I'll always do, you know, sometimes I'm not on a major label. We don't always clear all the samples.
Yeah.
When it comes to making money and licensing them, you know, we're like, shit, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a whole new mindset where I have a whole stash of original music that I can sample, and it's still the same approach. It's just stuff that legally I can use and make money from. So it's really still the same approach. It's just a matter of, you know, doing it the right way and doing it the underground way.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wasn't even thinking like, oh, I want to do a bunch of sample-free records for Ace. It just happened that, you know, those particular beats where I made using, you know, those joints, like something like Brooklyn, you know, was something we could use. And it, to me, they still sound like hip-hop records, so that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, well, they still sound like, listening to the album, like, after you said that and I went back and listened, I'm like, you honestly could not really tell. There might be 2 or 3 beats on there, like even Brooklyn itself, where, like, because after I heard you explain that, I was like, okay, and then I could almost hear maybe, like, within a couple beats, like, where maybe, you know, like, you might have used that approach, but for the most part, I'm like, nah, this still sounds like it's sampled off, like, some, like, 70s record.
I think the term sample-free is stupid. Like, people use that because it just makes sense for people to hear it, but it's not sample-free. I'm still sampling. It's just I'm sampling stuff that I could legally
That you own.
use,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
So when you say sample free, it's like no samples, but it is. I might sample a really dope person playing piano. It's just something that I paid for and I can use.
Yeah,
So,
no,
you know?
100%, 100%. It's the same thing as if you got a homie who's a musician. You get him to come in the
Exactly,
studio,
exactly.
lay 4 hours of guitar. You could sample that for years. It's still sampling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that's dope. I think that's a dope approach too. And one thing I want to ask you too is like, do you have a preference over the two though?
I'm sorry, cut out. Do I have a preference
Over the two, like if you were to use like samples that you can actually legally own and buy, or digging in the crates.
No. I have no preference. I mean, obviously, it's great if I can make something that I can, license and use without risk.
Yeah.
But to me, the most important thing that drives everything is the quality of the music. It's not the money. Yes, it's nice to make money, but it's not the main motivation for me.
Yeah. And one thing I was wondering too, because I make beats as well too, but I'm still on that underground level, right? So I'll sample anything, and as long as I feel like I can somewhat disguise it enough, I don't give a shit. As to where you're at a point where you're paying your rent with this, it's not the same. But if you had free permission to sample any song in history, is there like one song you can think of where you'd be like, oh fuck yeah, that's the joint right there, like?
There's so many, dude. But
yeah.
If I had like carte blanche on sampling, one song and not having to worry about it, it would be Nautilus by Bob James.
Yes.
Even though it's been done so much, I just feel like that's the most like hip hop, New York sounding, up there with ESG UFO.
Yeah.
But just those type of records are just so New York to me, and yeah.
Well, in the Nautilus record too, it changes up so much. It's almost like Tubular Bells. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different beats you can make out of that one song, and even tapped resources, even though it's been sampled a million times.
Exactly.
No, that's dope. That's a dope answer. So one thing as well too, because you moved out Brooklyn, what, like 03? Would it have been like 02, 03?
Are you asking me when I moved to New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. It cut out. I moved to New York in 2001. So I've been in New York now almost 19 years.
Holy shit, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. So you've almost lived in New York as long as you ever even lived here.
Yeah, we're about at the 50-50 mark now.
Holy shit, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. So when you were still in Toronto, because you obviously must have been making beats and stuff to go out there with that goal set. But did you ever really get involved in the scene here before you moved out?
Not really.
No?
No, like I was a fan of the scene here, and like that's my whole upbringing and inspiration is a lot of the local cats in Toronto, like Maestro and Mr. Attic from the Grassroots and Socrates and Cardi, and I grew up listening to all that stuff. And I was working with a couple super underground cats in Toronto, but when I moved to New York, I was working with them. But it wasn't until I dropped Port Authority that, I work with Cardinal. But I can't say that I did a lot of production work in Toronto. Like, I was out before I even started to get my feet wet with the production.
Okay, yeah, because I was curious about that, because I never really seen, any, Marco Polo credits or anything on much, that, early, 2000s.
No, I wasn't even making beats. Like all those, remember when Rap Essentials 1 and 2, and, I was still a fan, I didn't even know how to make beats. So, yeah. Okay,
word. And if you could name one, who would your favorite Toronto MC from that period be?
I think my favorite overall, if we're talking beats and rhymes, one of my actually, there's two. I'm going to go with Frankenstein.
Okay.
And Socrates. Those guys both could rhyme, and their beats, I love their beats. Sox's beats, Frankenstein's beats. Those two guys right there were two huge early Canadian influences in terms of production and overall just music that I could bump.
Yeah. Yeah, Socrates he does not get the props he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He's a legend to me, though, so shouts to Socrates.
Yeah, big shout-outs to Socrates. That's dope, man. And another question, just curious as well, too, because a lot of people here have the mentality where, you have to move to get the support from the out-of-home crowd before the home really fucks with you. And would you agree with that sentiment?
Back then it was like that. I don't think it's like that now. Toronto's a new world. Ever since Drake and Weeknd and all that, it's different. I mean, the whole sound has changed too.
Yeah.
But Honestly, I think Toronto's like a place people might actually be moving to be here because it's such an influence music-wise. So when I was leaving in 2001, that's how I felt, and I do think that helped me. But now I think it's less about that.
Yeah, definitely. We do have a structure becoming here, but you're right. The sound has changed so much, but I still think a lot of artists, like, you know, even the guys we got popping here right now, a lot of them don't really get. I feel like Toronto really starts fucking with them once they prove that other places fuck with them first. I don't know why we have that mentality here, but I feel like it continues.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. Like, why you would have to get co-signed by another place to be recognized as dope is always stupid. Like, you should be dope or not dope and be recognized for your skills. So, yeah, I think that happens in a lot of places, though, you know?
Yeah.
So.
All right, man. And, you know, I know you got some stuff going on, so I won't keep you too much longer. But one thing I did want to ask as well, too. This is probably a hard one to answer, so I'm not surprised if you wouldn't have an answer. But, like, being that you've produced for so many legendary hip-hop artists, everyone from KRS, the Helter Skelter, Ace, Boot Camp, Large Professor, Cannabis, Tragedy, Talib, MC8.
No Cannabis. I had to correct you on the Cannabis.
No?
I don't know. That comes up in the Discogs, but I never did nothing for Cannabis.
No, you
just
didn't do
Cannabis.
that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it just comes up on the list somewhere, and somebody wrongly credited, so I gotta
like
clarify
maybe
that one. But everything else, you were correct.
Okay, maybe like a YouTube video. You know how people will just name shit on YouTube and like put false credits and shit? Maybe it was born from something like that or something.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. Because when I seen that, I was like, oh shit, Marco Polo produced for Cannabis? I'm like, damn. Like fucking
No.
But like out of all these legendary artists you've had the chance to produce for, like, is there one? Could you say that there's a favorite, or there's one at least where you're just like, holy fuck?
There's so many good experiences. Like literally, I've produced for Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Cool G Rap. You know, like literally the upper echelon of you know, some of the best lyricists ever. Pharaoh Monch.
Yeah.
Large Professor, like, but I have to kind of like, if I'm going to answer that question in 2019, it's like the overall experience, and for me, it's still Masta Ace, and doing an album with Masta Ace. Overall, as an artist, as a businessman, as a friend, that's meant the most to my career and just my evolution and my gratitude to him, and just the music we make. That's my favorite.
Word. And you know what, honestly, I think you two, you have a pocket when you guys work together that's just like, it's undeniable. You know what I mean? Like certain artists have it, like MOP with Preem, or like Royce with Preem, or like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain pockets.
Everybody with Preem.
No, just those two. I think MOP's the best group with Preem, like aside from Guru, obviously. But and you know, and I think Royce as a solo artist, you know, with Preem. But you know, just like.
No, of course, I understand.
Like Redman on Sermon beats.
Between certain, you know, Pete and CL, and like there's lots of legendary duos. And I totally agree. That's one thing I say that I feel like a lot of producers don't want to say is that, like, yo, I might make amazing beats. It doesn't mean they're going to work with an MC. Like, there's just some people that sound better over other people's beats, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, when we came up, it was production teams or one producer that made a sound for a group.
Yeah.
You know, Tribe Called Quest had Q-Tip, Alicia Heed, later Dilla, but like everybody had their own sound that made them stick out, right? You know, Primo was producing for Guru, and then he started branching out and doing other things. But for the most part, you know, there was diversity and differences. And then Illmatic came out, and then it changed everyone. So like, oh, you can work with 10 different producers and make a classic. But it's actually very difficult. Some of my favorite, I'm pretty sure 90% of my favorite albums of all time had one producer on them, because there's a cohesiveness to it that it just makes it flow and just feel like one thing instead of like, you know, all over the place. So
yeah, no, I would agree with you 100%. And I think the only reason Illmatic worked the way it did is because all these producers were working together. You know what I mean? Like they're all homies. So like Preem would be like, oh, like Q-Tip hit us with that. Like I gotta hit him with this then. You know what I mean? And then like Pro's like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And like, you know what I mean? So though they're working in competition, they're working together. Like I think one of the only other albums since then that's as cohesive is maybe Jay-Z's Blueprint. And it's for that same reason. Because you had the same producers working in the same studio trying to outbeat each other, but there's still a cohesiveness to it.
I agree.
Yeah, man, for sure. And so before we do wrap it up, I just wanted to ask one more question because I know you worked with Sean Price a few times.
Yes,
And
more than a few times. Yeah, that's my homie.
A handful of times. And did you guys? So obviously, like you guys worked in the studio together. It wasn't like over the internet type of shit.
Yeah, no. He came to my crib many times to track verses. It was a blessing.
And what's your funniest Sean Price memory? Because he was one of the funniest dudes in hip hop.
Well, to me, it's the best Sean Price story. So he came. I don't know what it might have been. I did this really under the radar EP called the Green EP that literally probably nobody knows exists. It's called the Green EP, and the whole theme is smoking weed. So it's a bunch of songs about weed related stuff.
Okay.
And the label that wanted me to do it, they wanted a Sean Price track. So I hit him. I was like, "Yo, come through. I got this label. They want to do this joint." He shows up to my house, walks up the stairs. He's holding a bag of fish. and he's like, yo, it's my dinner. Throw it in your fridge real quick. And so this guy comes up with a bag of fish, and I'm like, you're the greatest, bro. So I put this bag of white fish in my fridge. He knocks out the verse, grabs the fish, and he's out. I have so many stories though. He used to call me randomly too, which I felt so blessed. Like he would be at the crib watching some old like 70s blaxploitation film or something. He'd be like, "Yo, I just heard this sample. I want to flip it, and I think you could do it." And 2 times he called me like that. And actually, one of the times it turned into a song. I'm not going to shout out the sample, but on his last album, there's a joint called "Prisoner" that I produced featuring Freeway.
Yeah.
And that was the situation where he hit me with the sample. Was like, "Yo, make a beat with this," and I did it, and then he loved it. He rapped on it. Unfortunately, he passed, and then Freeway got on it, and yeah, it was that joint. So you rest in peace to Sean Price, man. We miss the hell out of that dude. His energy. I just posted the other day on his birthday that when he passed away, it was just he was so Brooklyn, so New York, and it hasn't quite been the same since he left us, man. We miss him, like his energy, his sense of humor, his ability to just not give a fuck and just say whatever he wanted. It's definitely a big empty space, since he left. So we love him. Shouts to him. Rest in peace, Sean.
Rest in peace, P. Yeah, man, definitely. Like he was one of the funniest, if not the funniest dude ever in hip hop. And he was also one of the bullies. Like he'll slap you in your face type of dude too.
He used to make fun of me all the time. That's another thing too. But I never tripped because I was like this. Usually people that make fun of you, it means that it's your homies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like he's killed me on records on the Rusty Jooks album. I forget what he said. I was wearing tight jeans or I don't know something like. He's roasted me mad times, but to me it's like it's an honor.
It's like a sign of respect almost.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Yo, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for your time, man. Let the people know all your social medias, everything, how they could find you.
Absolutely. For those tuning in, this is Marco Polo. You can find me on Instagram, Marco Polo Beats, Facebook, Marco Polo Beats PA, Twitter, Marco Polo Beats, website, MarcoPoloBeats.com. Producers, if you like making beats, I have the best drum kits you will ever get in your life called Pad Thai, and I'm about to drop a new one, so go to MarcoPoloBeats.com, grab those. And yeah, Masta Ace Marco Polo, a Brooklyn story, available now everywhere. We're about to drop a new video for Fight Song featuring Pharoah Monch, and then some more videos, and we're touring. Oh, and we're actually going to be in Toronto performing at Scratch Bastard's Barbecue July 21st.
Oh, no way.
Yep.
Oh, man.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that, but I just did. So,
yo, I'll definitely come out to that. That's huge.
Yeah, shouts to Scratch Bastard. And, we'll be here rocking a lot of new joints, some classics. Hopefully he does top 10 list, and I can call Socks. So, yeah.
Dope, man. Super dope. I'm looking forward to that now that I know that. That's awesome. I'm going to mark that off my calendar as soon as I get home. That's fucking dope.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much for your time, man. Hopefully in the future we get the chance to chop it up again. I know you got some shit going on right now, so I don't want to keep your time too much longer. But yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And all the people listening right now, make sure you go get that Brooklyn Story album. It's the embodiment of real hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, brother. Have a great day, and thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you for calling in, man. You have a great day as well.
All right, peace, brother.
Cheers, man. Yo, what's up? It's your man, MLNY, Maloney, Breaking Records Radio. You know what it is. I'm just here to tell you guys right now that you want to, if any of my smokers out there, basically, any of my Canadian smokers, now that it's legal, what you got to do is you got to head over to thccollection.com and check them out. And make sure you use the promo code HIPHOP. That's HIPHOP. And that's all capital letters. Save 10% on every purchase that you make. Anytime. They got everything. They got deals every single day of the week, which include like free whatever with whatever you buy. And my favorite is Tulip Tuesday. You can get $100 ounces, and that's only on Tuesdays. And you save 10% on every purchase with the promo code HIPHOP, all caps. That's HIPHOP. So make sure you go over there, check them out. That's thccollection.com for all your good medible needs, for all your good greenery, your extracts, and all that good stuff.